For today's Second Life photography quick tips, we'll be going through skin shine. We'll be going through what it is, what it does, and how to get them working. This video will be done entirely within Second Life and on the Firestorm viewer, so let's get started. Skin shine are these little flecks on the skin of your mesh body parts, which act sorta like pores in real life. These will react with the wind lights or lights within Second Life to create a more believable look to the skin of your avatar. You can control how intense you want this effect to be by using the different HUDs that come with the mesh body parts. Because different body parts are created by different brands and creators, the HUD designs are all going to be fairly different as well. So to cover a wider base, I'll be going through 3 different mesh bodies as well as 4 different mesh bento heads, all from different brands, to show you guys how their HUDs will work. There will be timestamps in the description for each of these brands so that you can hop over to the ones which are relevant to you. Before we can talk about how to control skin shine, in this part of the video we're going to be explaining the mechanics of what goes on within Second Life to make this phenomenon happen, just to give you guys a little bit of context. This particular effect is only viewable when you turn on the advanced lighting model. Turning that on will enable what we call Second Life materials. Second Life materials in 3D terms just means that the object has normal maps and specular maps controlling its appearances. Here we have a default Second Life prim cube and 2 spheres which I've converted to emit a point light, one white and one blue. In order to see these lights in action, we're going to navigate to Photo Tools and turn on Advanced Lighting Model as well as Local Lights. Every object within Second Life, from mesh, sculptees to prims, when you right-click and hit the Edit button, you're going to be able to pull up a Build menu. Within this Build menu, we have a Texture tab, and this Texture tab allows us to control the properties of the object in regards to its texture. The usual texture that most people talk about is going to be this texture here, which we call the diffuse texture. In this case, this prim cube has a default Second Life prim texture applied to it. I'm going to switch this over to a blank texture so that it's solid, and also change this item to gray. And this is how the prim cube looks like with those changes. You can see how it's interacting with the lights, but it's also incredibly flat. Materials in Second Life will allow us to add more detailing on this prim cube. If you look underneath the texture diffuse, you'll see there's a place to add bumpiness, which is where we place our normal maps, and shininess, which is where we place our specular maps. I'll pull in a random normal map texture onto this prim, and you can see now how it's interacting with the Second Life lights. We've now added the illusion of more detail on the object without actually changing the model at all. And then now I'm going to pull in a specular map, and you can see how this object now interacts a lot better with the 2 lights that we've added onto the scene. We can even control these values to alter the intensity of our specular maps. The values being controlled under specular is what is being controlled on our HUDs of our mesh body parts. So what you see happening on all these prim cubes are the exact same thing that happens on the mesh body parts. So what these 2 different textures do is just simulate a whole bunch more detail without having to add a lot of complexity to the object. Because at the end of the day, Second Life being a game will require more simplistic models to be used for any of its assets in order to not have too much lag happening around us. I do want to note that even though I'm talking about not having complex meshes on the grid, honestly, all mesh body parts created on the grid right now are significantly complex meshes, and they aren't exactly what should be used for any game asset. It's not that they're poorly made, it's that they're very resource intensive. But that's the uniqueness of Second Life, where creators will work around their limitations to fulfill the needs as well as the preferences that we users will have. So users will always demand for smoother and more high detail looking meshes, and what we have right now is honestly as high detail as we should get for any game. So in order to not go even higher in detail, pores and wrinkles are added onto the skin using the materials that I've shown earlier on. We'll now cover how each of them can be controlled. The first body we'll be looking at is the Maitreya Body. This is the body I wear most of the time when I'm in Secondlife, just because it's also the most popular body on the grid. Therefore, there's going to be a lot more clothing options available. This brand only carries the Lara body, so whatever I go through in this section is going to apply to you as long as you're wearing a Maitreya body. For the Maitreya body, in order to set your skin shine, you want to navigate to the Skin and Options tab right at the top of the HUD. Go all the way down to the Shimmer slider, and this is where you control the skin shine. My slider right now is set to a middle value so you can see a bit of skin shine, but when I push this slider all the way to the left, the skin is going to take on a very matte look without any shine whatsoever. On the flip side, if you start to push this slider all the way to the right hand side, you can start to see the effect be a little bit more intense and the skin starts to take on a wet and shiny look. Ultimately, for the Maitreya Lara, I do like to set a value that's a little bit less than 50%. I think that gives me the most realistic look for the skin without being too intense. If you're wearing any appliers for the Maitreya body, and those appliers have materials on them, to control the intensity of those materials, you need to go up to the Layers tab, and the glossiness slider here is where you control their intensity. Moving on to the next brand, we're going to be looking at Slink. Slink carries two different bodies for females, Hourglass and Physique. Both of them share the same HUD design, so this section will apply to you no matter which of those two you're wearing. For this video, I'm wearing the Slink Hourglass body, which I believe is the second most popular female body on the grid. It's a very curvy option, so if you're looking for that particular look, this body is going to be perfect for you. To get your skin shine to appear for any Slink bodies, there's going to be two steps that you need to take. The first one is to apply the maps onto your body. You want to navigate to the Skins tab of the HUD. Go all the way to the bottom section where it says Advanced Skin Effects for Physique Skin, and then click on the Sheen option. This is going to apply the normal and specular maps to enable the skin shine. The second step is to control the intensity of the skin shine. So what you want to do is click the Effects tab. Make sure that the skin section is enabled. Navigate to the two sliders up here, and those are going to be what controls that value. Glossiness is going to be what affects the intensity of the shine. If you push this slider all the way to the right hand side, you're going to end up with a very intense shine to your skin, making it look almost wet looking. On the other hand, if you push this to the left, it's going to appear completely matte. The environment value is another really interesting one that doesn't appear on the other two brands. You can experiment with this particular value to create more different effects for your body. If you have both glossiness and environment set really high, your avatar is going to look like it's wearing a transparent latex suit, and this can be a pretty interesting effect for photography as well. So for Slink bodies, you can control both glossiness and environment to get a look that fits you the most. For me personally, I tend to set my environment value pretty much on 0 and then place my glossiness value in the mid-range to create a realistic skin effect that isn't too dramatic. If you wear appliers for the Slink body and they contain materials, you can control the intensity of their effects by navigating to the different layer tabs underneath here, and depending on where you applied your appliers, you can control their values the same way. Finally, the last brand we're looking at for bodies is going to be Belleza. Belleza carries 3 different female bodies: Isis, Venus, and Freya. Freya is the most commonly used body from Belleza, but I personally prefer the Isis body in terms of how it visually looks. So that's the example that I'll be using for this video. Either ways, for all three different bodies, the HUD design is pretty much the same. So this section is going to apply to you as long as you're wearing a Belleza brand. In order to control the skin shine of a Belleza body, you want to hit the skin tab and pull out this skin section. Navigate to the top where you find a bar or slider with sparkles next to it. Right now it's set at a middle value, so you see a little bit of shine on my body. If you push this to the left, the skin is going to appear completely matte. On the flip side, if you push this all the way to the right, it's going to have a more shiny look, and the shine is also going to be a lot more condensed. I find that the Belleza Maximum Shine looks the closest to realistic sweaty looking skin versus, like she swam in a pit full of oil. So I find that the Belleza body always has the more realistic looking effects. When I'm wearing a Belleza body, I do tend to set my skin shine around the 50% range or a little bit higher because I find that their effects are not quite as intense as the other bodies. If you have pliers for the Belleza body that contains any materials, you can control the intensity of their effects through the Layers tab. All the sparkly sliders here are going to be what controls those effects depending on where you applied them to. Now we're going to move on to the bento head brands. The first brand we're going to be looking at is Catwa. This is my default head in Secondlife, and I'm wearing a Catwa head. Catwa has a lot of heads for both female and males, but all their heads use the exact same HUD design. So this section of the video is going to apply to you as long as you are wearing a Catwa head. So let's get to controlling the skin shine of the Catwa heads. You want to first open up your HUD. By default, the HUD is going to open to the second tab, which is Alpha, Lashes, Tint, and Neck Size. The area that will control skin shine will be this particular section that says Shininess. You want to first hit the Skins button, and once you do that, you can look underneath, and the glossiness slider here will be what controls the shine. If you push this slider all the way to the top, the skin is going to glow super intensely. If you push it all the way down, the skin will still have a little bit of residue glow even though it looks more matte. If you want to get rid of any shine completely, you want to actually hit on the X button right underneath here, and that will get rid of all the shine from the skin. For me personally, on a daily basis, I do like to set my values around the lower mid-range for my Catwa head. The next thing we're going to be looking at is lip shine. For lip shine, you want to navigate to this button here, which actually controls two different layers of your lip. The left-hand side of the button is going to control your lower layer, and the right-hand side is going to control the upper layer. I tend to always control the upper layer because then the shine just exists right at the top of the lip and is a lot more realistic. And then you can start to adjust the glossiness slider as per the skin shine. So if you adjust this glossiness slider all the way to the top, it's going to look like lip gloss. If you set it low, it's going to look more like a satin lip. Since the makeup I have now doesn't really need a shine, I'm just going to hit the X button, and that's going to get rid of any lip shine. So that's it. Those are going to be the slider values that you can mess around with to create a more realistic looking skin effect on your Catwa heads. The next brand we're going to be looking at is going to be Lelutka. For this video, I'm wearing the Chloe head, but Lelutka carries a bunch of female heads and one male head. I believe their HUD designs are going to be the same throughout, so this part of the video is going to be relevant for you if you're wearing any Lelutka heads. So let's first open up the HUD. The first tab that will be open is called Essentials, and the skin shine will be located in this particular tab. Under this section here called Shimmer is where we're going to make the adjustments. Because I've removed all my skin details before recording, in order to bring it back up, I won't be able to just use the sliders, I actually have to hit restore. Once you hit restore, the HUD will apply all the maps on your head and set it to a default natural value on the slider. You can now use the slider to control the intensity of your skin shine. If you push it all the way to the right, the skin will take on a very glossy look. If you push the slider all the way to the left, you're going to have a more matte effect on your skin, but depending on which wind light you're using, you can end up with a really white cast. So if you're going for a more matte look, I strongly suggest just hitting the remove button instead. But do note, if you hit remove, adjusting the sliders is not going to do anything for your skin because it actually got rid of all the maps. So in order to bring the maps back up, you need to hit the restore button, and now you can start to adjust your skin values again. Now we're going to move on to the shine on the eyelids. I removed mine as well, so I'm going to hit the restore button to bring it back up, and you can see my eyelids start to have a slight shine on it. If I push it all the way up, it's going to have a more intense shine, and depending on the eyeshadow that you're wearing, this effect will look very different. For mine, it just looks like I'm using a really shiny liquid eyeliner. If I push this value all the way to the left, it's going to have a residual white cast, which can work for certain eyeshadows, but for my case it really didn't, so I'm going to get rid of that by hitting remove. Now in order to bring it back up, I'm going to hit restore and push it all the way to the right so that I get that glossy eyeliner look. Moving on to the lips is going to be the exact same thing. I'll first hit restore to bring it back up. If I push this value all the way to the right, it's going to take on a glossier look. For the Lelutka heads, because of the normal maps that are applied to it, the lips actually still have a lot of lines to them, even with a high value, so you're not going to get that smooth lip gloss effect, but this can look really good even on natural lipsticks. If I push this slider all the way to the left, it's going to take on that white cast again, and I'm going to hit remove to get rid of it. Because the skin shimmer itself actually has a little bit of lip shine, I'm just going to leave my lips completely removed and call it a day. And that's it. I believe those are some of the values that you can play around with to add a little bit of detail onto your Lelutka heads. The next brand we're going to be looking at is LAQ. For this particular video, I am wearing the Lulu head. LAQ carries a couple of female mesh bento heads, and all of them look super dynamic because of the motion capture animations that are built into the heads. All the heads are going to share the same HUD design, so if you're wearing a LAQ head, this section of the video is going to be relevant for you. So let's first open up the HUD. The HUD is going to by default open up to the first tab, which is the Features tab. Under that Features tab, you're going to see a Skin section. And on the right of that, you're going to see a little icon with a water droplet. That's where you want to click on to bring up this tint window. The area that controls the skin shine is going to be underneath here called Material FX. You want to do a mix and match on the intensity and glossiness values to get the effect that you want, slightly different from the other HUD designs. The way that I remember it is that intensity is going to control how intense the shine is going to be, and glossiness is basically which areas of the face gets affected by it. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of examples of what this does. So if you push the intensity values all the way to the right, you're going to get this crazy white cast because the gloss factor is set very low. So it's spreading the intensity all around the face. To fix this, we want to push the gloss value all the way to the right, and you're going to see the skin take on this super glossy look. If you keep the gloss value high but lower the intensity of this, the shine is going to be less intense, but it's still going to be very condensed and located around the high points of the face. On the other hand, if the intensity is high and the glossiness value is set low, you're going to get a slightly metallic looking effect on your skin. So mess around with these settings. I do think you have a lot more to control with the LAQ heads. For me personally, I tend to keep my glossiness around the mid value, so that it spreads a little bit more evenly on the face, but still predominantly exists only on the high points. And then I'm going to push the intensity values a little bit lower than that. I think this combination gives the most natural looking skin on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to show you guys how the gloss for makeup and lips work, because I personally never got it to work on my HUDs before. So that's pretty much it for the LAQ Heads. These are really amazing heads, and the animations on all of them are just super adorable. Moving on to the last brand, we're going to be looking at Genesis. For this video, I'm wearing the Lena head. Genesis carries a lot of heads for both female and males, and all their HUD designs are going to be very similar throughout. So let's click on the power icon and just bring up the HUD. It's a very minimalistic HUD design, which is very cute, but the loading of the textures do take a little bit of time, so just be patient with it. We're going to open up to the Features tab, but we want to navigate to Settings. So let's click on Settings. And then go all the way to the bottom where it says Skin Shine. There's not going to be any sliders here, it's just going to be buttons with percentages on it, and the percentages are just going to represent how intense the values are going to be. So if you hit 100%, it's just a super glossy look. 75% is a little bit less. 50% is the mid value. 25% is very little gloss. And finally, 0% is none at all. I personally like 25%, so that's what I'm going to go with. And that's it for the Genesis head. Genesis heads are actually super straightforward. They don't quite have as much controls as the other brands, but it's also the easiest to get the skin shine to set up. We've come to the end of this video. I hope that you guys found the instructions clear enough for whichever mesh body part you like to control your skin shine for. Skin shine is a really beautiful thing to add when it comes to taking pictures of your avatar. It adds a little bit more realism to your shot and tricks the eye into thinking that the skin has a lot more detail than it does. So experiment around with your HUDs, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.